Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 2 of Bardic Questions to celebrate that's 2 years of Bardic Quest. Hurrah! We obviously did Bardic Questions last year to celebrate our first anniversary, and we did enjoy it so verily that we thought we would bring it back with our also marvellous host, Becky Hill, who has joined us to ask all the
Thank you,
questions.
thank you, thank you. I'm glad I've influenced myself so much upon you that you cannot escape. Every birthday I will be here.
Persistence gets you everywhere, Becky. That is the truth. That is the truth of it. But no, glad to have you here, Becky. Glad that you agreed to do this for us once again this year. So, essentially, for those that missed it last year, this is essentially just a Q&A. Becky's going to curate and lead the questioning, and we will hopefully provide most of the answers, possibly not all of the. I don't know what questions you're going to fire our
Yeah.
way. I have a inkling of some of them, obviously, because some folks have sent them in, so I have had a peek at some of them. But obviously, I have no idea what questions you yourself, Becky, have planned for us. So that'll be
No.
interesting. So essentially, over to you, Becky.
Brilliant. Right, well, happy birthday to one and all. And of
Thank
course
you.
to the beloved Ollie, aka Johan, who is like a typical rogue, escaped, fled, vanished, stealthed out of this wonderful opportunity. I will catch him on anniversary 3. He will be caught. He will be questioned. Do not worry,
He's
fans.
around here somewhere.
So fans across the Bardic Quest universe, so to speak, have sent in some lovely questions for you all. So the first one we're going to go for is regarding behind the scenes, and it's from Simon Jelly, and this kind of applies more to Wayne, but you as cast members can of course fill in. He asks, do you film multiple episodes in one session? If so, how often do you schedule filming sessions, and how long does each one usually last?
We do film multiple episodes in one session, except for like the big anniversary ones. Usually that is one, because usually they're a couple of hours, so that's usually one session. But normally we kind of go for. Well, I mean, it should be about 3 or 4 hours, but by the time we catch up at the beginning of a recording session, it's probably a little bit less. So we normally get about 3 or 4 episodes done in a session, and we record those once a month, roughly thereabouts. That's the aim, anyway. If we can match up schedules.
Adding on to that, as a fan observer and a fan of 2 years now, I've definitely noticed the change in the transitioning between episodes. Because I remember kind of like watching everyone, you're like, okay, and that's where we're going to stop recording. And now it kind of like doesn't, it flows into a nice end credit scene, that kind of thing. And it's definitely feels more fluid. So your skills are ever improving, Wayne, as a DM.
Oh well, thank you. I mean, a lot of that, to be perfectly frank, is about the way the episodes are produced, because some of it is just to really kind of pull the curtain aside for a moment. A lot of it is about efficiency of producing the episodes, because, for example, if you do a session, because originally when we started it was just one whole session, and then that was kind of broken up, which was nice because it was a nice flow. But equally, there were kind of elements of that where you kind of lose a little bit of context if you're coming in at like episode 5 rather than episode 1. So then we started then breaking it down into, actually, this is the bit that we're gonna record this episode and record that episode. But what that does is two things. One, it kind of provides a little bit of rigidity to the editing process, because you've already then determined in the moment where the episode begins and ends. But also, it might not necessarily be maximal for time. Because what you then do is everybody kind of goes, okay, that's an episode done, and then we got like maybe 5-10 minutes where we kind of regroup, everybody goes get a drink, and then, you know, when you're doing that 3 or 4 times in a session, that can sometimes be half an hour, which could be a whole other episode, you know. So there's kind of that element as well of trying to be as efficient as we can, because we only get together once a month, and the production schedule can be a bit intense, even though we are only meeting once a month, getting the editing for those done. We are, now that we're kind of experimenting with this new format that we've introduced in the last month, where you can see everybody, and we're using this new streaming software. We are at the moment kind of playing around with bringing that kind of structure back of like the episodes again. But I think I agree, and it'd be nice actually for the community to let us know in the comments as well, actually, what they prefer in terms of that, whether they prefer that fluid or if they prefer that really structured way, because it has just been testing really, and just kind of seeing what works. But interesting that you seem certainly, Becky, to prefer that nice fluid, which I think I prefer from a narrative perspective. But
yeah, because I can remember like in the especially during the first year, it felt very much like, as you say, you kind of like, you'd all pause, say, okay, that's recording, and they say, okay, right, I'm going to press record again, and I'm going to recap everything that we've done just like in the last half hour, and then we'll carry on from there. And I can see, as you point out, how that kind of like acts as extra time filling in with time that you don't necessarily have.
Yes.
So when you started doing like the pre-recorded introductions and the recaps, I thought, oh, he's getting very professional here now. He's popping up and he's saying all this with a fancy background kind of thing. I thought, but yeah, it kind of nice, because it almost, not to kind of like dim down all your efforts and the brilliant work that you've done, it almost made me think of the way kind of like Neighbours used to do their recaps, that have like a whole little montage of like previously in Neighbours, so and so slept with so and so, and so and so walked in, and it felt like that, and then it went straight into the action after that, which is, it does feel like a bit more of a kind of like flash reminder for the audience, especially kind of like if I might be one of many fans who kind of tends to watch you when I can, which is why I've always loved your very short, within an hour episodes. Of course, I love the 2-hour ones. If I can squeeze them in an evening, I did, or this morning at 5:30 in the morning, as I did this morning. I will do. So sometimes it has been more than a week since I've watched, although I do tend to be quite good and try and keep up every week. Kind of refresh, because when you're a busy parent, and just anyone who's just generally busy, it can be easy to lose track of things. That's why I struggle to keep up with the bigger D&D shows like Critical Role and High Rollers and that kind of thing, because they're all 3 to 4 hours, and I just don't have that kind of time in a day to sit still. I don't. It's my time for sleeping usually.
and it was one of the many reasons we decided to go for more short form. I mean, it still can be 45 minutes to an hour sometimes an episode. And I imagine that as we get higher level, that the episode length is gonna just creep longer and longer and longer for a little while, maybe. I don't know. But I was very aware of, I struggle to keep up with some of the bigger shows that are putting out 3 to 4 hours of content every week, and like, as you say, as a busy parent, like sometimes that is your TV time for a whole week, like 3 to 4 hours. So I was very aware of making it in a format that could be consumable regularly without feeling like, oh my god, I'm 3 episodes behind, there's no way I'm going to catch up now, kind of thing. Yeah.
What do you think, Annina, Isaac and James? What are your thoughts on the recording experience from a year ago to, of course, now?
I think as a player, it feels very similar to me anyway. Like, obviously, as a viewer, you'll see it, but we do the same thing we did a year ago, which is, right, okay, 5-minute break, let's go. It's that.
The snacks, go.
I think when we do check out, watching the kind of work back week to week, particularly if for scheduling reasons, or if we're kind of working away or kind of acting, we'll catch up with each other's episodes if we missed something. And sometimes it's nice to see, like, when's done. Oh, that's been added, or like that. That's nice. Yeah, I think I agree with Annina. It's relatively the same for us, but I would say that with Wayne pre-recording the intros, it does mean that we kind of just flow. I mean, I'm sure that people will have certainly realised in the last few episodes where kind of there's not necessarily a specific cut. Wayne's just kind of using his intuition. We're all kind of feeling like where the moments are and kind of where that narrative is kind of like, not only for time's sake, but, you know, that feels like a nice pause moment for Wayne to do a cut there and to make that an episode. And then, you know, it just kind of picks straight back up and you're straight back in the action. So, yeah, it does feel fluid as well.
Yeah, it's nice starting out the way we started out because it kind of embedded us with a level of professionalism, which then I think, obviously, once the episodes start rolling, absolutely goes out the window. But at the beginning, we have it, and then that's something that I think we've kind of kept as a team all the way up to now. Is when Wayne's like, "Guys, we're going to go for rolling." We'll be like, "Okay."
Okay, now we shut up.
Yeah. Shut up.
Oh, well, thank you. That was a really useful insight into both views of this whole experience for you as a cast and as a director of sorts. That kind of leads on to Simon Jelly's next question, which is, do you edit the sessions, Wayne, or just let it roll? And if you edit, are the outtakes available?
We say this all the time. There's stuff that happens like in those 5 minutes before and after where like some of the most just gold has happened. Wayne, please save it.
I do need to. It's all archived somewhere. I do need to go through some of those kind of in between conversations that have happened.
I mean, the very heated argument about chocolate bars.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
There was like a 15-minute debate about what is the best chocolate, and it was comedy gold, really, for us certainly. So I do need to dig those out and find those to kind of put them out there just for a bit of fun.
Yeah, Becky, can you settle a debate? What's the best chocolate?
No.
Any chocolate.
No, that's
I will eat any and all chocolate.
The safe answer.
But yeah, I mean, this is something that does come up, and I remember fairly early on, somebody stumbled upon our show and left a comment essentially saying, "This is too highly edited for my tastes," and I was like, "There's like no editing here. Like if this is highly edited, like." I don't know what you want.
You're too good, guys. Clearly too good.
It was. I mean, if any editing happens, because obviously there will be some minor editing that happens, but it is usually putting the graphics up on the screen, like putting the name cards up, editing the credits, the opening credits in, editing the bit at the end for where we put the stuff on the screen for. Like where you can click onto the other videos and things like that, putting that there, so kind of like the end credits, if you will. Then otherwise, the only editing really that happens is where an episode begins and ends, and if there are any technical problems. There have been times where, particularly as we've been experimenting with this new, the editing for episode 99 was a pain, because with this new software, that it kind of has its moments that we're kind of having. So you will notice there are a few crossfades that kind of happen very, very quickly, because I try and make it as seamless as I can. So there'll be those crossfades, but those crossfades are only there not because anybody made a mistake or anything went wrong in that respect, but just simply because the technology went, no, I'm not going to play now. So then I have to kind of like stitch it back together. But really, what you see is, for better or worse, I will say, is raw what happens in the session.
The amount of times in episodes we say, "Can you edit this out?"
And
that's in the episode of us going, "Edit this out." It hasn't been edited out. There you go. It's not highly edited.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I'll be listening back to an episode. And I'm like, damn it, I missed one. Because sometimes it will just be like, oh shit, like, let's look this up in the rule book, which is, not great television.
Yes. Consulting the Book of Hands.
Exactly. And sometimes that can take a while. So sometimes that'll be edited out. But as Annina's just said, most of the time, because that's not part of the editing workflow, so I'm not looking for mistakes. You know, I'll like make a note in the moment as we're recording if the tech goes wrong. But otherwise, I'm not really looking for editing out bits, which is why those things stay in, because the editing that I do is so minimal that those things just get forgotten. So things, the camera just rolls, and what we get is what we get, and pretty much the editing is minimal at best.
And it's all glorious. So just keep doing whatever you're doing, guys.
Well, thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move into a bit of the section on characters and backstory now, cast members. So here we are. So we'll go around in turns, but this question's from Robert Treadwell. He asks, my question is around backgrounds, and did you have a detailed one or just a rough idea? We'll start off with Isaac, seeing you missed out last year.
So with characters, I kind of I come up with a concept of like, you know, kind of thinking class and what sort of kind of person I want to be, that sort of thing. But yeah, in terms of background, I generally kind of almost sort of soft world build and then let the details kind of come to me, if that makes sense. Like not in a vapid way. I just think for me, making things really rigid too soon maybe doesn't allow me that creative play to explore the character, you know, to have everything set in stone before you've even kind of given them a bit of breath and actually lived in their skin for a bit. You know, I like to kind of be like, okay, I think this person's going to be from here. So for Thoric, my first ever character was from Mirabar as well. So I kind of had a bit of detail on the lore and the place, and I thought Mirabar's actually quite a good place for Thoric to be from. And then kind of went into him being a cleric, and then sort of did a little bit of research in terms of the Wizards of the Coast kind of pantheon of gods and stuff, landed on Berenar Truesilver, and, you know, found all this detail about Feanor, and you know, finding these details about the symbolism and the reasons why and all this kind of stuff, and just sort of let that inhabit Thoric essentially, and just kind of gave him some really loose things, and then certain details started to come up about his family background. You know, he has cook's tools proficiency, and I was like, well, where's he got that from? Who's taught him to cook? And I was like, oh, well, his dad. I was like, okay, well, who's his dad? You know, you start making those connections for the character that makes sense, that aren't just choices from the player's handbook.
Yeah, I really like it, and I've always kind of like bonded to Thoric because he just come across like such an honest, all-round good character, and of course, his family history keeps popping up in some very intriguing and mysterious ways, which are yet to be solved or resolved in any way, shape, or form. So I'm hoping he comes out the line and solves all that for us.
So do I. Thoric is such a mother hen.
Make that lemon drizzle cake.
That's the main mystery. Sod the mines, you know.
Yeah.
I did enjoy laying that lemon drizzle cake in front of you. That was a lot of fun.
We all want to meet Papa Thoric. I want to meet him. Sounds delightful. I do.
He's somebody you would gladly like have dinner with on any given day.
He'd just be everyone's friend.
Yeah.
Just open the door with an apron on. Just,
Yeah.
He is the most wholesome of D&D characters, I think.
How about you, James? Was there much detail or a rough idea between the whaler?
So Sergei, when we originally made characters, I heard there was going to be a fighter, a cleric, and a rogue, and I thought, well, you need a bard in there. You guys just need one desperately. So I was like, I'll step up. I'll take the boots of this bard. It was very much a concept for a character, which then developed and kind of let the role play inform what Sergei became. Especially when starting on. Sorry, I just ate a cookie, which is the worst move possible. when it's starting on D&D Beyond, you can, what is it? There's like these little icons that you can use as your character profiles.
Portraits.
That's the one, yeah. And when we were making Sergei, I was having a flick through them, and I was like, I wonder what Sergei's going to look like. I wonder what Sergei will become. And I spotted this absolutely cursed-looking feral halfling with like a floppy red cap. You can probably find it on D&D Beyond, and I was like, oh, interesting. I kind of like this, and went for that. And then I was like, right, well, Sergei's now going to be this stinky fisherman who just kind of walks around with his feet out all the time. And yeah, very much just let that inspire it. And I suppose that's a lot of what other characters I find are inspired by is if I see something cool on Pinterest or find a cool picture or hear a cool story or something, I'm like, I want to play that character. I want to make that character. Yeah, that's me.
So I remember back before your character, the Fandolin, James, that I'm sure Sergei, did he not, before he boldly leapt out the window and avoiding Glassstaff, otherwise known as Ivan?
No,
Not Ivan.
Yeah, I
no,
know.
no, Albrecht.
Yarno.
Yeah, no, I knew it was some kind of name that I couldn't pronounce or spell. But I remember you mentioning that he picked up a blade and he shaved his hair to give him a bit of a mohawk.
Yes, he did. It's very much a turning point for Sergei. He obviously had just been through all of that stuff with Yarno and his past kind of catching up to him. So I think it's very much a case of this was a shifting point in his character. He's entering a new era for Sergei, and I think the haircut, as it were, was almost a staple point of that. It's the classic when a character in a TV show changes their clothes and everyone's like, whoa, this is a new person. Is that kind of vibe that I was trying to go for.
It did kind of like stick to me that you kind of like then had like that intimidating meeting with that. I think it was the lady in that cartographers guild, kind of like who revealed she has some dark underworld connections, kind of things. And I thought, oh, he's getting very much deep into the crime, and he's almost having to man up a little bit. If I have like can man up,
yeah, losing a bit of the whimsy and
trouble he's finding himself in.
Yeah, definitely had to rise up to the challenges that he faced. I think subtly they were always there for Sergei. That kind of inner grit of if being faced in the criminal world, but when around these guys, you can kind of let that go a little bit until everyone starts murdering people, and Sergei's like, "Yes, let's do that." Yeah, and I think it's very much when he has that time, that alone time, you see that a lot more come out the darker side of Sergei.
Because I did wonder if the kind of like the new haircut was a flashback to how he was when he was known as the Whaler more prolifically and not Sergei Petrovic when he's just among the common folk kind of thing. But it's kind of like a donning of personas almost.
Maybe. I'll keep you in suspense and mystery on that one.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That was a really nice insight into Sergei and a bit more about his past and significance of a hairdo. That's why we all have a haircut, isn't it? Just to renew ourselves.
Yeah.
So, Annina, tell us about Saga, how you came up with her very wonderful and detailed developing backstory.
Well, I think I always attempt to do what the guys do, which is like, oh, I won't say anything too much. And then 3 pages later, I send that to Wayne, who I don't know very well, going, hi, so this is my character concept. Here's like, I write out actual. See, I don't mean to. I just get carried away. And 2 hours later, I'm like, here's my backstory. There's like quotes and character quotes and people. I had an idea for a character. And I was like, oh, I want to make this war bride kind of character really cool. I didn't have a game to play her in. This opportunity came up, and I was like, great. It's quite dark. So again, I wrote out 3 pages of basically a short story of her background and how she got to where she is now, which is just before they meet in the tavern. Sent it to Wade and went, hi, it's quite dark, but this is my idea. And then kind of nervously wait if it's okay, because I don't know these people. What's the turn of the game? If it's going to be a really silly, fun, happy game, she's not really the character for that. Yeah, Wayne seemed to like it, and I was like, great, that's her. I think last year I said I was one of these people who thought playing humans is boring and fighters are boring. So that's why she's a human fighter, because I wanted to give myself a challenge. And I love that. So I always play an elf or something on, on human race. And usually a bard or some sort of magic caster. So that's why she's a human fighter. To challenge myself, because I would never otherwise pick a human fighter. And obviously a character evolves as you play them. And I really love that process of playing the game and being like, oh yeah, actually they think this, or this is how they interact with these kind of people. All these details come out in play, and I love that. So I like to have a not rigid, but it helps me play a character if I know where they came from. So like, I had 3 pages worth of like the 2 most important things that have happened to them, and then where they are now, what they're feeling now, and then I go, everything else gets changed and morphed as you play. And I wrote in, I don't know, it's not really a spoiler at this point, but I mentioned, obviously, I made the late husband character, and then I mentioned one sentence, I mentioned Ridril. So that was interesting. Wow, I made one character once, and he's here. And I will say Wayne is very, very good at using backstory. Very good. Because it could have been, this is just what happened to her, and it's a thing you mention and the character talks about, but it doesn't affect the game. And I love how it's actually become a very integral part of the game. So points for Wayne for that.
Oh, well, yes, I second that. Because I don't, as a relatively still inexperienced D&D player, I haven't ever played The Lost Mine of Phandelver myself, so the whole story arc itself is all new to me. But then to see that kind of like have spread within all your characters' backstories coming in, feeding in some way, Thoric and his lemon drizzle cake, you and your tribe hunting you down and wanting you back for various reasons. And of course, Sergei the Whaler wanting for crimes that we still don't know about, apart from involving a ship, a boy, and a half-finished song that then turned out to be read upside down, which will always stay in my heart. with oh my gosh, I've forgotten her name. That lovely NPC character, Margaret. I was going to say Janet, but I knew that wasn't Janet. Margaret. God bless Margaret. We need her on a t-shirt. We do. But yes, it's been wonderful seeing how you've done that, expanded the world for the characters as well as the players and of course the audience watching, Wayne. So
well, I mean, it was a particular challenge that I felt was necessary to push, because when you're doing an actual play for an adventure that has been around for, at this point now, nearly 10 years, and obviously about 8 when we began, it's a very well-known adventure, and you still need to be able to surprise an audience that may have read the adventure. So I was very aware of really trying to push the backstories as front and center as I possibly could. I had a great amount of fun preparing chapter 5, which is Return to Phandalin, which is obviously not in the book, because that whole chapter is Sergei's backstory coming back to bite him in many ways. So that was really quite fulfilling, and just kind of planting these seeds really early on, with the view of them becoming a big deal later as things progress and as we kind of approach the end game of the published adventure, certainly. I thought it was really, really important to try and lean into that stuff. And thankfully, these guys provided me with lots of juicy tidbits to kind of play around with, even unbeknownst to them sometimes. Like something that was mentioned in passing, like Ridgerel, for example. I was like, well, there's a foil if ever I've seen one. Like the just horrible guy that just is just a bit creepy, that is just a little bit full of himself. What a great sort of small villain to just kind of slot in, even if only briefly, which obviously we did this time last year. And I had also decided very early on that really, given that Jarno Albrecht's connection to the Lord's Alliance then made sense for him to be the guy that was pursuing Sergei this whole time. And I actually messaged James about 12 months before we got back to Phandalin saying, by the way, you know that guy you wrote in your backstory that's hunting you down? His name's Jarno Albrecht. And as I fully expected it to do, James went, great, and then straight over his head. Like, he completely didn't understand the significance of that bit of information that I gave him, which was great because it then meant I could really kind of, play around with it and kind of and toy with them a little bit. Which I am mischievous and impish in nature, so being able to do that as a dungeon master is very satisfying for me. So
I think that's what's lovely about kind of being a player and D&D being a collaborative storytelling format. It's not just its mechanical parts. Everyone is involved in sharing and telling this story. And I think the ways that we surprise each other and we bring things, and I think what Wayne does and what the other players do is it's kind of, we're just building each other up. And when those plot points come out, it's how those then build in the larger narrative, and how, we had that lovely focus on Sergei when we kind of came back to Phandelver. We had a real, everyone had these real personal stakes suddenly in this event. It wasn't just something happening to the town. It was something happening to one of our own. Same with Saga and everything that's been going on with her. We've had these really important emotional connections to each other that have kind of blossomed, and it creates tension, it creates drama, it creates these really complex threads, Saga and Johann's relationship and how the developments have affected that. And, it's not just someone having to make a decision for the party. It then has those other connections. That's why I personally love the game. There are so many opportunities for something that you bring to the table to be completely changed in a beautiful way and to develop into a way you hadn't even expected.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of that as well, for the record, this time last year when we did the anniversary special for last year, which I think is when this happened, for the record, I had zero idea that Saga was going to plant one on Johann. And
I remember your faces, because obviously in the recording you can just see me, but all the guys just had their jaws on the floor, and I was like, yeah, I knew what Saga was feeling. It was wonderful.
Took us all completely by surprise, and unfortunately, because we weren't filming in this format, you could only see Annina and Johann at the time. But I can tell you that the rest of us, the facial expressions were along the lines of none of us had a clue. But then that's obviously become, somewhat integral to the not necessarily, well, I suppose the story, but kind of that dynamic with the party and how those storylines that come in then affect everything. Because for both Johann and Saga, the stakes are so much higher. I don't think, spoiler alert for those that are 4 or 5 episodes behind, but I don't think that that reaction post werewolf encounter would have been anywhere near as poignant as I think it was, and I think the guys have done a real good job of just taking the proverbial bull by the horns and just kind of going with it. which is also really incredible given the fact that really when we started this, nobody knew each other. Really. I was kind of the connective tissue of everybody. Everybody knew. Well, to be fair, Annina didn't know me when we first started this. I just went, "You like D&D? Come." But everybody else knew me, so I kind of connected Annina with. But nobody really had. I suppose Isaac and Ollie did have a pre-existing relationship to a degree.
Sure,
but it was.
like
It wasn't. You weren't
Yeah.
close friends by any stretch, were you? Really? So to see them kind of just go with it and trust each other has been a real privilege to watch from where I'm sat as well.
And such moments, I guess, will certainly test all your skills as actors, kind of like, because this is all unscripted. You don't know necessarily what's going to happen or do next. And especially kind of like with the werewolf episodes, I remember quite visibly silently shouting at the TV, don't go, don't leave him, stay. Johan, get after her, go up that mountain, get her back. And of course he didn't. He was very noble and heroic. He just read the letter, went very sad and just put it away again. I'm like, no, don't. Oh, proper Romeo and Juliet stuff going on.
Well, I'd like to say as well, Becky, I will also kind of reveal a little bit behind the curtain there. The whole werewolf thing came about because I know how big werewolves are, wolves are in Norse mythology. And I know that was a big influence for Annina with the creation of Saga. Was this whole kind of Viking-esque character. So that, just a little bit of a tidbit of the creative process there. That was where that idea came from. Was I actually read, you could probably tell me which one it is, but I had read I won't go into detail here as to which story it is because that might be a little bit spoilery. But I had read a kind of synopsis of some Norse mythology and went, there we go. That's the thread I'm gonna tug on. And I know that you are obviously a big Viking fan yourself.
The werewolf thing surprised me. It did surprise me. I'm gonna say I was like, because obviously, and I feel kind of stupid going, "Oh, wolf! Oh, there's a full moon. Cool." And
I have no idea how that took you by surprise. Yeah,
I'm probably an idiot because I'm just like, full moon, cool.
No. It's a bit embarrassing that it took us so long because Wayne had, looking back at it now, we're like, oh, Wayne literally for like the entire episode was like, and the full moon is getting brighter. It's like, the full moon. And you see the full moon. And we're like, cool. And then with the lovely animated background Wayne's using, he's got this lovely full moon. We're like, oh, fine, nice. Oh, well, dark vision won't be a problem then for our watch. We're like, oh, yeah, this is all fine. And then it was like, oh.
Yeah, it was almost like the antithesis of the worn house. Like I'd learnt that lesson so much that I'm there going, full moon. No, but he got the desired result, so I was happy.
Well, one of the other questions that Robert Treadwell asks, and this is again more for the cast, he goes, Has how you viewed your characters changed over the last 2 years? And would you have changed something at the start if you knew the response?
Oh, it's a lovely question.
Wow. Robert Treadwell.
I have grown to absolutely love Saga to bits. I adore her. I wouldn't have changed anything. I just love how the backstory has been used far more than I thought, and that's great. That's fantastic. And calling back to what Isaac said in an earlier question is how I love how in this group you might do something that might be subtle, very innocuous, and the other people just pick it up and run with it. So I love how we play in that sense. Like one sentence, okay, cool, you said that about my character, it is now going to affect this dynamic. So yeah, just no, I personally wouldn't change anything. I just love how it is now.
Yeah, I think for Sergei, The original idea was that he was going to be quite scary and a comedy would come through the long pauses that come after something absolutely raucous that he's just said. But I think he very much became a lot more goofy, maybe isn't the word. And I'm going to use a word. Yeah, mischievous. It became a lot more of that throughout, which I started to play into because I quite enjoyed that element to him. And yeah, again, seeing that kind of other side to Sergei was definitely something I never thought we'd get to, but definitely happy that we got to start to see it and drag that out.
How about you, Isaac?
Kind of echoing what my fellow players have said. Yeah, just again, the way that everyone else raises each other up is just amazing. I wouldn't change anything about Thoric. Same as Annina and James. I just have fallen in love with a character in so many different ways than I thought, because you kind of have this concept. I was like, oh, he's gonna be the cleric, he's gonna be the healer. I want him to be really practical, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna make him a mother hen, like really, looking after everyone, keeping them together, all that sort of thing. And it's quite fun, and it's quite sort of like it just starts out quite warm and sort of very quite humorous. Oh, he's protecting everyone. But as the story kind of grew and we learned more about each other's characters, and Wayne has sort of vexed me with the details that he's pulled out of Thoric's backstory as it became more solidified. It's just created a really the Thoric has kind of become his own person in the way that the details just kind of flood out of everything that you do, and his mother henness has now become this kind of duty, and this kind of really, he's so latched onto this party. It's kind of become this just loyalty, I think, to these people as we've been playing together for so long, and they've shared so many experiences together. It's just made us really tight as a group, and you kind of find your players' role within that, not just their class or their background or whatever, but kind of what they mean to each other party member. And those things are what's great about the game. And I hope if any of this inspires or gets other people to play the game and to enjoy this side of the game, which is the collaboration, the way the stories come out. I think that's a really beautiful part of the game that I don't think people initially think about. And I think it's probably one of the most rewarding sides of the game.
Oh, that's a beautiful sentiment to end that question on, and really honest answer as well. And your characters have indeed been through so much together, through so much. It feels like a long 2 years, but for like in the game, it's only been a couple of weeks or a month or two. I'm not sure. I really haven't bothered tracking how many days and nights you've also
I do have it written down somewhere. I think it is. No, it's not a couple of months. I think we're probably approaching now, probably the month mark.
Oh,
if I think, yeah.
I'm sure there's a Bardic Quest somewhere that can give us like.
Where's our wiki page with like?
Yeah.
Well, sticking on the theme of characters, a friend of mine called Ruth in the Valkyrie RPG Dice Discord group. Again, I fully endorse their dice. Go look at them; they're all beautiful.
They are very beautiful.
I am biased because I have lots. She says her question is: have you all got backup characters?
Not for this
any
game,
ideas
no.
to play if, heaven forbid,
That is so mean. That is so mean. Because whatever we say now is just like, I
mean, that's always a possibility in this game, but I can't make a backup character now because I'm superstitious. Like, if I make one now, then I'll definitely, no. Like,
well, I know some players who don't wait until the moment of death and then they start thinking up from scratch. But
yeah, it would have to be
that point, especially with Sergei and Ollie, aka Johan. You've had at least 2 very close death experiences.
Yeah. I think, especially after the first, I started thinking, let's start having ideas just in case. So I've got about. I've always got so many ideas for backup characters on the go, but I've got a couple that I think would fit in a Bardic Quest world. I won't say them just in case they have to make an appearance. But yeah, there's interesting characters.
I certainly wondered if you and Nina would return as backup character when, of course, you sent Saga up the mountain chasing after the wolf with a sword in its eye.
I would want to play. So definitely I would make another character, but I would make them very far removed from Saga just to make a sort of clean break, start over, new role, new persona. Yeah, would have to be someone who's not like her at all, because that, so I can grieve in peace.
Yeah, just hold a ceremony for the past player character. I don't have any specific ideas. I think similar to Annina, I would just probably go for someone who's very, very different to Thoric in maybe both class and just who they are and where they're from. Kind of also to open up new possibilities. It's really nice to have someone different to what you've already played. Not only to create that separation, to sort of start feeding a new idea that, well, then, how does that affect the group? All that kind of stuff, which we're never going to have to deal with. But I think there's so much kind of culturally in this fictitious world left to explore that would be really nice to do. Unfortunately, we won't be able to for this campaign because we're all going to be fine.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Next question.
It's nice to think of hypothetically. Only hypothetically.
Yes. What a fun question. What a fun fictitious question. We'll never have to deal with the ramifications.
Have you considered your fictitious mortality?
Daily.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we've got a few more questions from Robert, and these are more kind of like fun, light-hearted ones. He asks, of course, a question that I would love to know the answer to is, when are you guys going to do a meet and greet pub meet Bardic Quest con?
Yeah, Wayne. When are we
Yeah,
going to do
Wayne.
it?
I mean,
All turned to Wayne.
I mean, it would be an absolute dream come true to have Bardic Quest Con. That would be freaking incredible. I'd love to. When it would happen, I really don't know. But probably a long time away, if ever, in terms of that.
Maybe we'll have a little booth at a Comic-Con somewhere. We'll have like a tiny little booth, and then like a few people can just be like, hi.
It will just be us at the bar. Just that will be our booth.
Hey, it's put/bar, mate. We're all happy to
Well, I mean, yeah, like a pub meet is actually probably not a bad idea. It would be something. I mean, to be perfectly frank, we the cast are still yet to have done a pub meet ourselves. So maybe that's something for us to do at Christmas, guys. But yeah, I mean, in terms of
maybe that's what Ollie's waiting for. He's waiting for real life drinks.
maybe. But yeah, I mean, we've full disclosure. Yeah, we've still not actually met. Even though actually, Annina, you live in London.
Yep.
James, you live in London.
Yep.
I live in London. So at least half of us live in London. We still haven't actually got together, and obviously Isaac and Ollie a little bit further afield, but still only a train journey away.
Only down south.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I would absolutely love to. I think it would be something really, really fun to do. So when, well, let me put it this way: it's going to go on my to-do list as something to get organised, something for a meet up. Probably something very, very low key, but I think it would be a cool thing to do. And obviously, there are some folks that want to, so we will follow their lead.
It'd be really cool to meet more Bardic Questers as well. 100%. I had the really great pleasure to just in my local game store. I was DMing for my steampunk group last year, and this very nice chap came up to me and was like, "Thoric," and I was like, "What? Who are you? How do you know my character's name?" And he was like, "Oh, I watched the show." And he was, we had a little chat and stuff. He was His name's gone out of my head. Apologies, wonderful person. We had a picture together, and he was currently terrorizing his players with a ancient red dragon. I was like, brilliant. We support that kind of terror.
Yeah, no, it would be great too, because we do have a lovely little community that's kind of that's growing, but it does feel at the moment a little bit kind of siloed. So it would be nice to find a way to get everybody together that wants to, and touch base with everybody in just a really fun, low key kind of way. So maybe that could be the spark that does ignite the fire that may become Bardic Quest Con in the distant future, no doubt.
Well, I'll just keep asking every year, just to remind
That's it. That's it.
Just send him a message once a month.
Yeah. It's probably good sound advice actually there, Annina. I'm not gonna lie.
Are we there yet?
Yeah.
Are we there yet?
It's so easy to forget.
Have you heard it yet?
Well, Robert's next question is: do any of you have a favourite saying or catchphrase from the show so far?
Yes. Hold your mountain goats. Favorite one.
That's very high up on my list as well.
Love it.
A Thoric own one.
Mm-hmm.
James is thinking.
I can't think of any specific saying, but every time Margaret opens her mouth,
Yeah, Margaret has some fantastic.
Just all Margaret utterances.
just Margaret.
Systems.
Oh, favorite moment has to be not really a saying, but when Sildar kept falling down the icy steps.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god, I was laughing so much.
It was like something from a Scooby-Doo cartoon.
Yeah, well,
It's just not that kind
that's
of
what kept
comedy.
tickling me. I had to look away because I was just replaying it over and over in my head, and it really, really tickled me.
I kept flashing back to that moment in Home Alone. I think it's in Home Alone 1 where they're trying to get up the icy stairs, and it's just
Yeah.
falling onto the banister. Oh, quote. That's really hard.
Or a catchphrase. It could be something you've said, something other ones have said.
I think just I can't think of a specific, but just the beautiful banter that happens between Saga and Johan, just the kind of just all of the kind of interactions of where she just despairs of him. Then there's kind of this little lovable moment, and then just I think also it's not a specific quote, but every time Johan can't take his medicine with a healing potion, just brings me pure joy.
Yeah.
Just when he's being baby birded when we're baby robining a potion into his mouth, he's like, no.
No. Vegetables.
Eat your vegetables. You will. I need you.
Yeah, I again, this isn't necessarily a saying or catchphrase, but a moment that gave me pure joy, and it was essentially a role playing gaff, and I think that's why I loved it so much. Was when was it when they were interrogating Jarno Albrecht, and Jarno Albrecht is clearly trying to bluff his way out of the whole situation, and he asks Johan what organization he works for, and Johan's just like, I just work for the Brethren Vigilant, and everybody just goes, oh no.
I remember Saga and Kota kind of took him aside and telling him he was just trying to get you to say that.
No.
That inside I was howling because it was just such a beautifully innocent moment where Ollie was just so in it that he was like, yeah, I'm gonna bounce off you here, Wayne, and then just completely said the wrong thing at the wrong time. And that was just a beautiful moment. I'm struggling to think of catchphrases though. I feel as though this this last year has been much more serious in tone. There's been a lot of high drama this past year versus the year before. So I feel like we're a little bit shorter on catchphrases this year.
I mean,
than
you say
perhaps we
that,
were
but
last year.
angry custard exists now.
Yeah.
So.
Angry
Angry
Custard
Custard.
exists. Flaming
Flaming
Bastards.
bastard.
Custard.
That was great. But I think the winner for me is Hold Your Mountain Goats.
Yeah,
I think that's got to be the winner. Which I still need to. Let me write this down. Still need to get a T-shirt of that one done.
You still need a T-shirt saying "Without further ado," because that is your catchphrase, right?
Well, yes, that's true.
That is a damn good one.
I do have a list of T-shirt designs, but a lot of plates spinning at the moment.
Hold Your Mountain Goats with all of us like in a chariot, like holding on to it.
I freaking love that idea. But yeah, Hold Your Mountain Goats for me.
So this is a question that I've kind of already asked James and Annina from last year, but I'm going to give you the chance to contribute and answer for them, Isaac. So, if you were playing for real life, if you were all to bring snacks to offer to the wonderful DM, would they be sweet or would they be savoury snacks?
Savoury all the way.
Such as?
Well, I'll tell you exactly what. Wayne, do you have any dietary requirements? That's my first question I would have asked.
No dietary requirements.
No allergies?
No.
Fantastic. In which case, we're just going full charcuterie. I'm talking. No. I do not mess around bringing a tub of bloody Pringles. No, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Pringles. It's just not me. So we're talking at least 3 different types of cheeses: something gooey, something blue, something strong. We're talking grapes, small tomatoes, little crudités, tiny crudites. We're talking maybe some kind of like meat-based items if you're in that sort of ballpark. You know, we're talking like little bits of Parma ham, little bits of chorizo, that sort of thing. Big board. You know, there's kind of decorative rosemary on there. We're talking, so everything's in its perfect section as well. So nothing's touching, because I know some people don't like that. You know, you don't want someone that's vegetarian. All the cheese is vegetarian, by the way. There are some vegan options in there as well, some spiced nuts. There's some. I'd recently made a vegan charcuterie board for some friends, and I did like some marinated tofu. I did some like char-grilled aubergine and courgette. I made a vegan pesto cream.
Wow.
Dipping in there.
Isaac, you hypothetically spoil us.
I mean, well, it's not necessarily going to be hypothetical forever.
Oh, stop.
That's how we'll draw people in. We'll have a little booze in a pub, and there'll just be a kind of...
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
It's not M&S food, it's Thoric's food.
Bardic Quest dining experience.
Oh yes. Totally.
And then in comes Sergei. Just, whoa!
Isaac runs the kitchen, Sergei's managing the waiters. Saga's at the door, Shiggy runs on the list.
And Johan's just skulking around.
He'll be testing the food for poison. Just like
yeah.
he did with the cake.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a question I'll open again to the floor because some new fans might not have heard the answers from last year. Do any of you have a favourite class, magic item, or indeed a magic spell? And it can come from any of the, of course, source books, campaign books. It doesn't have to be specifically for Bardic Quest's world.
Yes, all the above.
Bryan is getting his books.
Bear with me.
Consult the Book of Hands.
I think it's the Dungeon Master's Guide's coming out.
Well, magic items was on the list, so I had to kind of have a flick through. So I don't necessarily have a favorite class. I have a kind of favorite category of class, which is the arcane spellcaster. So depending upon my mood at the time of creating a character, I will usually play either a wizard, sorcerer, or warlock. Just because I'm that way inclined. And always have been. Like, I'm kind of a little bit like Annina in that respect. Like, I actually, like, the martial classes, I'm just kind of like, meh, with them. Although I'd like to play one. Well, actually, no. I did play a gnome barbarian at one point because I loved the idea of little man syndrome as a character.
Yeah.
Which maybe says a little bit too much about me being a little man myself. Yeah. So normally, but that was for like a one shot. But if I'm playing like a campaign, like a martial class doesn't excite me usually.
Say that, and now I am full like.
Well,
the win.
Well, indeed. I mean, I feel as though I kind of need to take the Annina Kaski method of character creation of just going, well, do you know what? I'm going to do it and see what happens. Because you are not the first person who has played at one of my tables, played a quintessential kind of, quote, boring fighter, and kind of... as the characters evolved, has become like one of their favorite characters ever, and I'm sure that happens at every table, not just with me as DM. I don't think there's anything special I'm doing, but it's kind of making me think a little bit. So yeah, no specific special class for me. I don't know about the rest of you guys.
I have a soft spot for elves. Always have, always will. And I like bards. My other favorite character is a very flamboyant elf bard. I do like if we're playing a video game, always a spellcaster. But D&D, I like me a druid. I like my animals. I like my woodland hippies. If I can turn into an animal, like either through polymorph or wild shape, I'm happy.
I'm also a massive fan of the druids. I love druids. Also, I love monks. I don't know why. I just love the idea of zipping around and just.
Yeah, I played a monk.
Very much my favorite playstyle.
What about you, Isaac?
I couldn't pick a favorite. Don't make me pick, because I think genuinely, they all have such wonderfulness. My first ever character was a fighter, Eldritch Knight, which was a really lovely balance. I think it gets a lot of flack, but Eldritch Knight is a really, really fun class to play. One of my other favorite characters I've played was a warlock. Pact of the Blade character, and I kind of designed it with the DM that they're a character called Atreyu, and they basically touched a cursed item and a demon possessed their soul, essentially. Very strongly influenced by, if anyone knows the character Malice Darkblade from the Warhammer universe, heavily influenced by that kind of thing. So essentially I got to play same character class sheet, but I played two characters, and we sort of found ways to represent the influence of either person, of the host and the demon. And they'd had very different agendas. So they're a very charisma-based character. Atreyu was a lot kind of softer, would kind of persuade his way through things. Kamaris, the demon, when he was in control, it was all deception, intimidation. So it was a really fun way to play a character and one class in two very different ways. I'd love to do some more of that kind of spelunking.
Right, magic items. Go on, Wayne.
Oh, okay. I was kind of gonna.
I'm gonna
get hand off, but as you go, because are we counting artifacts here? I think that's because
I'm being very general with the term item.
All right. Well, I'm gonna include artifacts then, because artifacts are bloody awesome. And since the moment I began playing and reading D&D, they're kind of like twinned items, I suppose, in many ways, that have always captured my imagination. Is the hand and eye of Vecna.
I knew you were going to say it.
It's just, I mean, the idea of having to mutilate oneself in order to tap into this really dark power, I just think is so. I mean, it just speaks to me on so many levels in terms of a narrative plot tool. I can't think of the word I'm trying to think of. Yeah, I like this, and you know, you always hit, well, some people might not have, but there's always that kind of that prank of the head of Vecna being a thing. I like this idea, because for those that don't know, for the eye of Vecna, you have to take out your eye to replace it with Vecna's eye before you can use the item. The hand of Vecna, likewise, you have to chop off your hand and then replace it with Vecna's hand. And then obviously then there's the kind of the false magic item of the head of Vecna, which you have to chop off your head and then fasten Vecna's head to your head, which obviously is not going to end very well.
No.
But this idea of power coming, absolute power coming at a cost, I just think is a really cool idea, and I like that that's built into that item. I do need to get that. There's that memorabilia of the jar with the hand and eye of Vecna in. I really kind of want to get that. But yeah, so that's me on magic items.
Very good.
I think
Go on then,
my
James.
Oh, it's so hard to pick a favourite, but there's a few. A few contenders are the folding boat. Love it.
Oh,
Can't go wrong with a boat that just unfolds. All the capes, especially the Cape of Stars, is so pretty. But I think it has to go. It's a real classic and bog standard answer, but Flame Tongue, the sword. Oh, I love it. The one that ignites and you can set fire to your own sword. It's just so cool. It's so aesthetic.
Literally, we played D&D on Saturday and someone has Flame Tongue.
Yeah, I love Flame Tongue. That's me. My magic item.
Isaac, Annina?
So I'm currently going through trying to be like, oh, and I like that one. Oh, and I like that one. That one.
It's like going through the Argos catalogue at Christmas.
So it really is. So probably some of my favourites are the Bag of Holding.
Yeah.
Is, like, I know it's kind of classic, but like the Bag of Holding, there are so many hijinks you can pull off with the Bag of Holding. You know, the whole double Bag of Holding bang thing. If anyone hasn't put a goblin in a Bag of Holding during a campaign, they're lying to themselves. You're not playing D&D right, in my opinion. The Robe of Useful Items is one of my favourite.
Yes, it's brilliant.
It is fantastic. I think in one version of it, I think it was still on Arcana, I played an Artificer, Fire Genasi Artificer, and they had a Robe of Useful Items. And just... I have a thing for that, and just rip a patch off, and like, you've got a ladder, and you've got this. Yeah, it's so like utility belt, just amazing. And then special mentions to two other things. Cloak of Billowing, is just
so good.
Just literally, what does it do? Just this the entire time. It looks epic, and it's just fantastic. Yeah. And I really love the Wand of Magic Missiles. I think Wand of Magic Missiles is one of the best. I think it's one of the best items. I think it's so versatile, and it's just it's a bread and butter kind of thing, and adds more magic to the whole game in a really nice way.
I definitely second the Wand of Magic Missiles.
Oh, just lovely.
I can't think of an all-time favorite one, but the ones that come to mind right now, Deck of Many Things. I mean, I don't want one in game. Many things.
Yeah, nobody actually wants one, but they like the idea of one.
People use it.
Yeah,
that's what you want.
Wait, have you ever used one in a game?
No, but I mean, the temptation. I mean, look, you guys know that. Like, one of the things I said at the start of the campaign was embrace the chaos. Like, that is kind of my style. Is like, we're just gonna throw stuff out there. Like, it's why you all level at different paces if people have missed for a while or whatever. Like, I'm not all about like, game balance is not a thing that I worry too much about. Like, of course, I'm trying to build encounters that are suitable for you guys, but aside from that, like, I'm gonna let the dice decide everything. So for me, a deck of many things is like that's raising it to a whole other level. Like I love a wild magic sorcerer, all that sort of stuff. I love those sorts of things. So I'm very tempted at all times to slot a deck of many things into a campaign, particularly because now in a few months' time they're bringing out a deck of many things book with an actual deck of many things in it. Like yeah, at the end of the year, like the pool is there. But I'm going to say it now. I don't think that's going to be appearing in Bardic Quest. Certainly not this campaign. I can't speak for
Then
future
we would
campaigns.
definitely be all dead.
But yeah. But yeah, I mean, I really, really do want to put one in a campaign.
It would be us behind the screen and then Sergei 2 miles away. It's like, okay. Sorry, Annina. Were there any others that you
were excited about
Mama's
the deck of many things there? Sorry.
If you're a bard, Mama's Rough for that sweet extra deception and persuasion. Because again, like Saga's dumpstat charisma, my other character is all about deception and charm and that. So I'm here going. Barely trying to charm my fucking ex-husband. How the fuck do you? How the fuck do you fuck that up?
The best thing is when Annina is actually doing like such a good job of being really persuasive. Like, oh, we could do this, and then the dice just go, nope.
No. Spat in their face, and I'm like, oh. Yeah. So yeah, Mama's Rough. I do like. I like them charisma buff items. I think they're incredibly useful.
Yes, to be fair.
Okay, out of kind of the whole 2 years so far, or of course just this last year since the last anniversary, what has been your favourite nemesis / mini bad guy encounter experience? Because you've come across a few.
Off the bat, I would say in Cragmore Castle, where things started to get really hairy, as they usually do for us, where Sergei appeared out of nowhere, and we were like, brilliant, you're here, let's carry on. There's someone who we suspected to be the Black Spider. We were trying to hold them, stop them from getting away, dealing with all the things in the room. There were wolves, I think there were goblins, and there was that huge bugbear. I think we just have a general vendetta against bugbears. They always seem to crop up at the worst time. And they're nasty. They are truly nasty. I don't know whether Thoric is maybe developing a bit of a nemesis complex against bugbears in general.
Oh, Grix.
I was going to say correct.
Yep. It would
across too.
yeah, it would track. But yeah, I think just putting a nice neat hole through one of the bugbear's chests was a particular highlight for Thoric. Just
it was very Iron Man-esque, just kind of like
like Guiding Bolt has become his like yes, it's very much leading into that energy now of it's just this laser that he has. He just puts it through people with the knuckle duster rings. But yeah, bugbears. Ooh.
How about you, Annina or James?
Annina.
I love the Riddle fight. I know that's obviously Saga based because I'm biased, but yeah, that one with the whole cinnamon shenanigans that somehow worked.
That's been the longest running little storyline ever.
And I gotta say, kudos to Ollie on that, because I think we'd all forgotten he had that. And then as soon as he was like, I pull out the cinnamon, we're like, no! Now is not the time!
When will he ever learn the truth? Will he forgive Saga for it?
I don't think he thinks that was poison, I'm sure. No one told him.
Still convinced. I think my favourite fight it has to be the Iano fight. The comedy mixed in with the terror, mixed in with the kind of the ending of that fight was really fun.
Very brutal.
I think, however, my without saying any spoilers, my favourite fight is just about to come up. So
Episode 100.
Mhm.
What a milestone.
I know.
boy, I'm scared.
I know. Yeah, there's some cool stuff coming. Which hasn't actually been. Is not in the can yet. That particular fight you're talking about, James.
No.
But it is. We are right on the cusp of it. Which will be
I
fun.
must admit, your killing blow with the Arno was dramatic perfection. With all those duplicates, and you rolled so high, and you just managed to get the right one.
Yeah.
You could
That was
almost
very
see Arno's disappointment that he got caught. Got caught out.
Got it.
Yeah,
Oh.
that was fun. Yeah, I did enjoy running that particular encounter. I feel as though that was, to me, it felt like that was one of those. There are two big encounters that stand out to me. Is the ritual one and the Jarno Albrecht one as one in which you guys as a team got the most creative. And that I think is when the combats really shine, is when you guys go, right, okay, we can't just move in and hit things. We're going to have to start, thinking outside the box a little bit. And you always manage to step up to the proverbial plate on that front and really go for it. So, and that's where a lot of the comedy comes. I mean, a lot of people saying that the flaming skull encounter from last week's episodes is also ranked up high, and I think I'd be inclined to agree again, because the creativity from you guys was hilarious.
It was. I mean, I would never have pictured Thoric and Johan to leap to the top of a furnace.
That was not what I was expecting as a early opening gambit either. I also particularly loved the arm that was hanging off the zombie as he flung it around. That I particularly enjoyed.
I know he tried to hit, and then he flung the other one right across the room. It was lucky that I didn't hit anyone else.
True.
I think desperation is more the words that I would use to describe those moments. Like, we're like, what have we got? Just start picking up random items, looking at the environment, like, what do we actually have here that can help?
Fun times.
Well, the return of course, Saga and Sergei at that pivotal moment was beautifully created, designed, planned, or unplanned, as the case may be. With it's interesting how throughout the 2 years there have been different characters, obviously having to go off for various reasons, just for the practicality and demands of real life, not letting us play D&D all the time. Kind of thing. It has obviously come back together, and of course I remember when Saga did get taken by Riddle, and they're like, oh my gosh, how is she coming back? Will they ever find her? And then of course when Johan and Thoric leave kind of that elven undead lady after having that little terrifying experience, and then they see her in the woods, oh my gosh, she's there, they found her, where's she been doing, who are those men? And I'm like, all these questions, and it just builds up the drama and anticipation for us as fans, I think, to watch more and see how it all plays out. And of course, depending on how much you as actors and members and characters indeed have with Wayne in terms of what has happened and what you've been doing since then. Of course, I'm just glad Sergei made it up the mountain into the mine without being eaten by wolves along the way.
It's touch and go.
He's had a bath now as well, so he's a little less repulsive to those wolves now. So the risk was high.
I must admit, kind of like when we left Johan and Ollie facing those undead, I was thinking, okay, who can step in to save him? Is Wayne going to bring in another NPC? Is Gudrun Rockseeker going to come in and save the day? Because he's the only nearby character, because who knows where Sergei is? And of course, at that point, I wasn't sure if Annina was ever going to make a return, and I am so pleased you have. I mean, I'm going to add in, because it's a burning question that I'm sure me and other fans will have had. Did you two discuss what you were doing as a character when you say, okay, I'm going to have a chase after the wolf? Were you always going to have her come back in at some point, or were you going to follow that as a separate storyline and then see what happened? Did Saga even know what she was going to say when she found her ex-husband / wolf? Or did you, Wayne, how does it work between you two?
Well, I mean, it is. I was on an acting job on a boat. So I was like, okay, I want to play, I cannot play. Middle of the ocean, no Wi-Fi. So it was us going, okay, how do we explain she's not there? I had an idea that to be honest, it would be her impulse to go after him. I think you asked me before we role played that what you're gonna do, and I'm like, I don't know. Then we role played it, and so we just improv'd that entire thing, and that was it. Because I don't know what Wayne as Dryle is gonna do. So all I know is what Saga might try and do, and I think it just, she might try to do this, whether it works or not, who knows? Whether dice rolls work, who knows? Probably not at this point. I'm cursed. Yeah, so I think I prefer the improv. I prefer not knowing. But when I'm like, I will be away for X amount of weeks, that's a problem. So we just come up with a very small, like, okay, this is the reason she's away for this now. But like when I went away for a longer time because I was on tour before the first anniversary episode.
I remember.
Literally, we just decided she's gonna run after a wolf. And then we had a very brief idea of how I come back in, being like, okay, where's she, what's happened? But that's it, like 2 sentences. And then while we were improving, we found out what had actually happened in more detail. And I prefer that as well. Just like, give me like, where is she right now? Cool, off we go. I prefer not knowing. Because that's the fun of this game, is you don't know how. Your character might be like, this is what they'd want to do. Is it going to succeed? I don't know. I will roll a 2, probably. I'll roll a 1. We all know this at this point. It's like, I'm basically a freak of statistics at this point.
You're not that bad. It's just sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. Just when it's
just at the crucial
really
moment.
Important.
Yeah.
Initiative 28. Okay, you're fine. Talk your way out of the situation. 4. And with the most recent absence, that actually did make a lot of sense because that would be her impulse. She is very headstrong. She's very that's her nature. So it's not something I'm acting to mask anything. That is what she'd do. I will solve it. You guys, she's very protective. She's very stubborn. Their safety is her main concern. And before the big encounter with Dryle, all I knew was like I was gonna go meet him. That's it. And even as we were role playing that scene, I had to like think on my feet. And honestly, I was sweating buckets in several points going, I'm not getting out of here. She's stuck. She's now stuck. They're going to have to come and save her. That was a real possibility that I don't know how I'm getting out of this. So yeah, ideally we wouldn't have absences, but you can't when we're all performers, that just happens. So we try our best, but I do think narratively it makes a lot of sense. So I'm glad about that. So it's not like, oh, they're not here. So narratively, she would be that head stubborn and not tell them and go.
Yeah.
So she is acting. The stars have aligned in a way that she is acting how she would act, which is to, put her foot down and go, no, it's my watch, and then not wake them up and go. You don't tell her what to do.
No.
You do not tell her what to do.
Well, the uncertainty you felt as kind of like enacted portraying Saga in that particular context came across very strongly during that episode. It's like, okay, she's here. She's behind the bush. Is she going to fire an arrow? Oh no, she's going to talk to him. What's she going to say? Is she going to say, "Be gone, leave me alone"? He doesn't seem to, he seems to want her, but then not dominate her entirely. It was a very interesting dynamic, kind of like because they were kind of like husband and wife loosely, historically. They both had grievances, and the other kind of like not being around or not doing something, and then of course they both have new interests as it emerged, as you thankfully pointed out from your lovely insight roll between his look and a certain other female wolf that turned up. And I did wonder, Wayne, if it was kind of like your intention to always have Dryal give her that choice of either staying with him willingly or kind of like going away, but then suffering the consequences of being suffering the curse independently. Because I didn't know if that was a narrative technique you were using to get Annina to go back to the group, or whether you were just going to have her and him therefore go off and have a lovely wolf clan by themselves.
It's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. As with the both the joy of D&D as a game is that you never know where it's going. The curse of using D&D as your storytelling system for creating a show means that well, the curse is you don't know where it's going to go. So you kind of both the best bit is also the worst bit when you're trying to put out a story for consumption as opposed to being a game table. And so there was certainly elements of that story between Dryal and Saga that that I kind of had in place, but I was also very hyper aware that and anybody that knows the Lost Mine of Phandelver knows that Thoric and Johan were in the midst of that final dungeon of that published adventure. Not necessarily the final dungeon of Bardic Quest, but certainly the final dungeon of the adventure. And a final dungeon of adventure is usually very scary. And so there was an element of like, okay, well, in order for these guys to survive, like Sergei's already on his way, but at this point we already knew that Thoric was on his own. So there was an element of I need to provide an opportunity for Saga to return. And so then I had to dive deeper, there we go, into the character of Dryal and who he is and what makes him tick. And so that's when I came up with this idea of the perhaps misunderstood relationship between him and Saga. And also him being, because I had established a long time ago this werewolf storyline. And so this idea of the monster without not necessarily being representative of the monster within, or is there even a monster within, right? Because that's the duality of the werewolf. And so it kind of fed into that quite nicely, this idea of perhaps not only is his werewolf lycanthropic appearance when he's in that form, obviously, being perhaps analogous to that kind of false perception, but also could their relationship and could their marriage, in inverted commas, also reflect that as well. So it was certainly something going into that scene that I had kind of in my back pocket, so to speak, to allow for that. Because ultimately, for the sake of Thoric and Johan, Saga had to get back to that mine. So I had to find a way that was not too heavy-handed, and also still made sense to the narrative. And not just like, oh yeah, you're going back to the mine now. It kind of needed to come naturally. So it was kind of something that I had come up with as a mechanism to allow that to happen, that I think still holds up to the character of Dryal, and in many ways actually creates makes something a little bit more interesting about the relationship between Saga and Dryle that perhaps wouldn't have been there otherwise. Because she's talked about him a lot and about how just horrible he is. But actually, perhaps, maybe, he's just a little bit misunderstood. Who knows? Who knows? Because I don't fully know yet. That will emerge as the campaign continues. But that's a question now that perhaps needs answering.
Well, on that wonderful note, tying into how we finally have got the squad back together at last, in time for another anniversary, and of course a very important moment in the story, with deep within the dungeons, with no way out, and of course running out of health potions and spell slots and all the like. I made a little surprise for you all to reflect this moment. I provided him the link, and he will hopefully share the link.
Oh,
You should all have it, I think.
are we allowed to press now?
Are we allowed to open it?
Click. Yes, there'll be 4 files. If you click the bottom one, when you open the file and open up the bottom file within that folder, that should open up the rest.
Bottom file in the folder.
The web version.
I think people might have beaten me to it already. The bottom file.
I think James is the first.
I mean,
It's downloading.
Oh my god.
Goodness.
Oh,
Oh my goodness.
I
That
love that
is
he's singing about the bear.
incredible. I'm going to see, whilst you're explaining away, Becky,
Yes.
I'm going to see if I can get it up on the
for our
screen.
viewers
so
at
that-
home.
Absolutely. I'll see if I can get it up on the screen.
Death of the bear.
I asked, and of course, paid her handsomely for such a fine piece of art.
Thank
A
you
lovely
so
artist
much.
called Rebecca Mansfield. I met her at Thought Bubble Comic Con last November, and she is actually, and you might remember this, Isaac, going way back,
yeah.
designed the Thoric and Grick cuddle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god,
Yeah.
that's beautiful.
I said, I would love a great portrait, and possibly in time for their second birthday. Would you be able to do it? So we swapped ideas. I gave her a few ideas of characters, your location, and of course, if you remember way back when, near the start, you all played about with Hero Forge to make your own little custom minis. She used those as reference images, and she's created this wonderful picture of the whole group deep in the dungeon with stones replicating the stone effect around the actual logo during the credits. Thoric is holding his famous honey loaf bread. Saga with her broadsword. Sergei is singing "There Once Was a Bear," which is replicated beautifully with a sweet little bear with crossed out eyes to represent
I
bears.
love it.
And of course, Johan is just going for the honey loaf. The honey loaf bread.
I've not missed the cheeky little stand on the chest as well.
I know. I said they've got a lovely relationship bonding. Johan's very inexperienced. Saga probably has lots more experience in this kind of thing than he does. And I thought what she did there with the interpretation is beautiful, because Saga is, of course, the protective. She's like the mother bear of the group, whereas Thoric's the mother hen. They're kind of a spiritual morale boosting. And yeah, I absolutely adore it. And I've been sitting on this for at least a month plus.
Yeah,
amazing.
I have had this image because it's the first time today I'm seeing the full finished version. I've had it in my inbox for over a month, and the temptations to open it. I'd seen the line drawings, I must admit, so I but the full finished thing. And I love, I'm just going to bring it up on the screen again so the audience can see it. I actually really love her use of colour on this as well. Like, she's fully utilised the kind of the green, kind of turquoisey colour that we did.
Her use of lighting was really good. I kind of like
superb.
She gave me a few examples where it's kind of like a bit kind of like backlit, or you're all backlit with a bit of a glow in front as if there was a fire, but it's kind of coming from across the whole bottom range of stone, which didn't quite look right because there was no identifiable source for this light. So I think just like the darker tone, the shadows really suits her, like how she's given it a bit more of a background and everything. She's doing really well. She is open for commissions if anyone wants a D&D artwork.
Beautifully done. Where can people find her? So that
they find her on Instagram, because of course many people are not always on Twitter these days. Well, now known as X.
It's
Let
Twitter.
you find my page. It's Rebecca, lowercase REBE, 2 C's and then an A _ Arting, ARTING. She's on Instagram, and she is open to commissions if
Fantastic.
anyone's
I
interested.
love how in the faces you can just tell their personality. And
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
nailed
She's
that. I love
captured
it.
it perfectly.
Yeah.
It's...
I sent her screenshots of kind of like, especially Annina, when you kind of like put on your war paint cosmetics sometimes, and of course Ollie has his own scar cosmetics. So these two will have these things. Can you please put these on, because then it's significantly them. It's definitely these characters, kind of thing. And
Thank you so much, Becky, for
That's amazing.
Wonderful.
organising.
well, in that
It's-
file, you've got the A4, RA3 version. So if you guys want to get a printout at home, have it framed, you're of course more than welcome. I
Aw.
still need to do
so
so.
much,
I have to
Becky.
find somewhere on my wall to fit it.
It is a beautiful piece of artwork. Thank you so much for, and thank you as well to. Oh, we've lost James for a moment. As well to Rebecca. What was her full name? Again? Sorry.
Rebecca Mansfield.
Rebecca Mansfield. That was it. I nearly called her Rebecca Arting then, and I was like, that's obviously not her real name.
But yeah,
so
we just kind of
thank
like
you.
met eyes when I was going up and down the aisles of many talented artists at Thought Bubble Comic Con in Harrogate last November, and we just clicked and said, oh, she does D&D commission work, and she actually did the Thoric and Grick version kind of like there and then during the day. She gave me two versions, one Thoric
so
hugging the Grick, one Grick hugging Thoric. So
Wow.
They're
Just
so
amazing.
cute.
They're
So
cute.
good.
I hate Grix so much. So cute.
Oh, thank you so much, Becky.
no worries.
I feel
It's
as
just
though we've
my
lost-
humble way of showing how much I love all of you, all the effort, all the characters, all the whimsicals, the fun, the chaos, everything. I know it takes a lot of work, and you're all amazing. Thank you.
That's very sweet. Thank you so much.
Becky.
Aw.
It's really,
Happy
really
2
lovely.
years!
Yes, thank you.
I'm
And here's
definitely
to
getting
many,
that
many, many
printed
more.
and putting on my wall.
I have a
It's a
picture
very beautiful
frame up
birthday
here.
present.
I might have to start adding a wall of pictures because there's something above my desk here, and there's room for one more, I think, at least.
There's room for one more.
Oh, it's thank you.
If all
Becky.
else
It's
fails,
lovely.
have it as your background on your laptop, PC, phone, everything.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Thank you so much, Becky, and thank you for hosting this Q&A as well. It's
You're very welcome.
Really
I'm
is a
humbled and
pleasure.
flattered you thought of using me again in this very fun way.
Well,
It's been
of
fun.
course, of course. Thank you so much.